welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the show in which I find out how the world works through gender, I guess. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Yes, it's Terrifying Thursday. Why is it Terrifying Thursday? Well, I'll tell you a little story. Last night, or I should say early this morning, I experienced what I can only describe as a night terror. I woke up from a dream, a very vivid dream, and I was truly awake, and I was lying in my bed, and I couldn't move. I felt as though I had like this giant weight on me that was holding me down, and I was completely paralyzed, basically. And it was just this intense sense of fear and paranoia, and I just was able to slowly push my way out of it and sat up. And I looked around and I said to myself, I think I just had a night terror. That was awful. I don't want to do that again. But then I saw the She-Hulk finale and I felt so much better. Anyway, so yeah. That was my night last night, and part of my day this morning. But here I am tonight, Thursday night, for TEDXcellence with all of you. So how you doing? Hope you're all doing good. Who's joining me for this adventure into climate and genitals or something? Beachy Cogito, Noah Asensio, hello, Zeke Weiss, hello, Old Guy Gamer, hello, Shell D, hello, Keeverdam, hello, and you got the GoFundMe's there, let me put that up there, thank you, Keeverdam. Somnamnul Nation, hello, Tall Person, hello, Jamie Melquist, hello, let's see, who else is here, Tack Alpaca, hello, Jack Frost, 7548, hello, Ryan R, hello, Big Dave, 1066, hello, Non-Vitae Rex, hello, who else is here? Roger Reynolds, hello. Shadowclaw, hello. Ken Elliott, hello. Ebony Williams, hello. Lexi Mads, hello. Now we can really begin. And I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, or if you're lurking, or if you're in the future, hello. So, yeah, what do we have tonight? Well, why gender matters in climate change. Why gender matters in climate change. Let's all ponder that for a second. I don't know, because purportedly, we all of us, whatever our gender, live within the climate. So, maybe there's a biological element to it. Maybe like because men's bodies, due to sexual dimorphism, are, on average larger than women's bodies, thus our lung capacity is larger than women's. Maybe men exude more greenhouse gases than women do. And so really it's more on percentage men's fault for climate change than it is women? Maybe that's it. That's my first guess. Or maybe it has something to do with how we name hurricanes or something. Why do so many hurricanes always end up being named after girls that do the worst damage? Why does the Weather Service do that? I don't know. I guess we'll find out together. Let's see. Tonight's bingo card is bingo card A. A as in atmosphere. See, I connected that. I made that work. I forgot to put the bingo poll out on Twitter earlier today, so I just made an executive decision and picked bingo card A. Links to the bingo cards are in the description. And yes, this is the first TEDXcellence of my 7th year beginning, because I had my 6th year anniversary the other day, so this is technically the beginning of my 7th year. And, coincidentally enough, I just hit 7,000 subscribers! For the second time! Because I hit 7,000 subscribers several months ago, and then, I think it was like a year ago now almost, and then I lost a whole bunch of subscribers, either because people decided they didn't like me anymore, or YouTube cleaned out a whole bunch of dead accounts. I'm not quite sure which. I like to think it's the latter. That makes my ego feel better. But anyway, that's all neither here nor there. This one clocks in at 17 minutes, so we got to get going, guys. This is going to be a long one. That's what she said. So get your bingo cards ready. I'm going to start off with a few seconds for a sound test. Tell me if you can hear it, and then we'll proceed. Also, a note. Because of a technical difficulty during the She-Hulk stream earlier today, I had no idea that StreamYard kicked me off the air. until it was too late, like 6 or 7 minutes in. So, if I suddenly drop off because I can only look at one tab at a time on my computer, just fill the chat with red X's, okay? Just let me know. Don't put too many that you get like spam timed out or something. Just give me a whole bunch of red X's so that my peripheral, if I'm not looking directly at the chat, I'll know something's wrong. That's all I'd ask of you. Because I don't want to screw this up any more than I have to if it happens again. Okay? All right. I can count on you. All right, so let's get on with it. We have Margaret L. Signorella, not Cinderella, Signorella, distinguished professor of psychology and women's gender and sexuality studies. So not a meteorologist, not a climatologist, but oh, I didn't look at that before just now. Okay. All right, well, with that being said, Kildrig, hello. Spudgun, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Froggy, hello. And Swirl Blue, Alyssa Holcomb, hello. All right.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. You hear that all right? Let me know. Beachy Cogito, you pronounced the Italian name correctly. You know, I memorized a Sicilian phrase long time ago for a character I played in a role-playing game. I would attempt to recreate it here, but I'm pretty sure I'd embarrass myself. But if you really want me to try, I'll do it later. And you can tell me, maybe, if I can still remember it correctly. Let's see, got thumbs up from Jamie Melquist. Sounds good, says Megan Ring. All right, let's get on with it.
So, why am I showing you a picture of snow, which you probably are, some of you are happily anticipating and some of you are dreading?
Because it has to do with the climate?
Well, when we think about climate, we often think about our experiences, such as an unusual snow. This was before winter. Or we might see ice on the river and think, is this just like the good old days when all the rivers iced over? Or
what?
Is it not enough and should we be worried?
Well, okay, I don't know. What part of the world are we talking about? You know, I mean, if you're showing me those pictures and said, now here's Australia in December or something, I'd be like, ugh. But I don't know. Is it unusual for there to be snow there? Wherever that is? What? Okay.
When we see the swollen creeks after a terrible storm,
Yeah.
do we wonder, is this an anomaly or is it something that's going to happen more in the future?
Creeks swelling up after a storm? I don't know. Why don't you tell me, Professor of Women's Studies?
When we see the trees that are downed by those storms,
Yeah.
do we view it as just part of forest revitalization or another sign that we have a serious problem?
Yes, because prior to now, trees would never fall over in a storm.
Well, the United Nations released a report in August 2021,
Okay.
which says, indeed, that this is a problem.
Oh, okay.
And that some of the severe weather that we have been experiencing is likely due to climate change.
Some of the severe weather is likely due to climate change. Okay, how much is some, and what percentage is likely? You're reducing the chances with each word. And I don't know why she's wearing a mask on a stage. I can make assumptions, but who knows? Maybe she's trying to protect everybody else.
And is likely to become worse in the future.
Oh, okay, so some weather is likely caused by climate change, and it's likely to become worse in the future. Okay, do you want to quantify any of that? Scientist... Oh, wait, no, you're Professor of Women's Studies.
But often what is missing from our concerns and thinking about this issue is people.
Yes, because when we're talking about raging rivers, rising tides, falling trees, crop death, and so on, we're not really thinking about people. No. We're just thinking about abstracts. What?
And so too frequently, we're focusing on technology, and I'm not saying technology is not important.
Yeah. Are you also saying technology is not the product of people? That technology is not, well, developed in service of people? What are you saying? Oh, by the way, let's go over to the bingo card real quick. I forgot that was there for a second. I'm going to review it real quick to remind ourselves what we are listening for. Collectivizes own demographic, systemic institutional, sales pitch for product or service, childhood or family anecdote, diversity, equity, and inclusion, plays victim, microaggressions or unconscious bias, privilege, contradicts own point or argument, patriarchy, weightless example, wage gap, feminism, marginalized marginalization, a list, and that has to be a formal list, mind you, white supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, mind reading or assumes motives, benevolent condescension, anecdote that probably never happened, and leaves out vital context. So keep your ears open for those. And thank you, Keldrig. This inspires a lot of confidence. Tully doesn't make it seem like she's got nothing. I know, right? I'm waiting for the... Well, I'm waiting for the first shoe to drop. There has to be at least one before I wait for the other. And I don't know if she's wearing sneakers or what, but let's get on with it.
But too often, that's the focus rather than the people who are impacted by these changes.
Yes, because a meteorologist, a climatologist, does nothing in service of people in predicting weather patterns or the oncoming of a hurricane or a tornado or a blizzard in service of the people that they're trying to warn or protect or advise. You're right, we never consider the people when we're analyzing weather patterns. What?
And too frequently, we are not understanding that every human is not affected equally.
Okay. You know, I guess the one advantage with her wearing a mask is there's no way for me to tell if they've, like, edited the audio or if it's out of sync. Okay, yes, you're right. Depending on what part of the world you live at any given time, under any given weather system, yes, people are affected by weather differently. Not all the same, at the same time. So, like, I'm not being affected in the same way by the climate as somebody in, say, the Sahara Desert right now. Or what do you mean?
This is a picture I took from our wheelchair-accessible, gender-neutral restroom in this new building, just upstairs.
Okay.
And this is certainly not a great technological advance. The mechanism is pretty much the same as in all the other restrooms on campus.
I am dying to know where she's going with this. Okay, I'm looking at weightless example or argumentative non sequitur. Give it to me.
But it meets human needs.
Yes, a toilet does meet human needs.
And so we now have not enough of these restrooms where individuals who use wheelchairs or people who feel more comfortable in a gender-neutral restroom can make use of it.
I think the Americans with Disabilities Act requires there to be wheelchair accessible restrooms or stalls in just about every building that's open to the public. I think. I could be mistaken. So there's at least one per building, if not more. And the one that you showed is a single-use occupancy. So comfortable using a gender-neutral... It's just a bathroom. It's... Okay, and what does this have to do with weather and climate?
And so this is an example of how we can merge the human issues with the technological and scientific challenges.
I honestly think that the audio is out of sync with the video, but it's completely in sync. With the original video. So because the motion of her jaw and her hand motions when certain words or phrases aren't matching up. But who cares? She's got a mask, and we're not exactly talking about a major visual medium in this case, so.
I want to use an example of how we can consider all of these issues together.
What?
I want to use the example of World Toilet Day. So as we speak here tonight...
Tall person, are you in on this? Tall person, is this you?
We are only a couple of days away from November 19th, which is the annual World Toilet Day. And this is an event that started in the early 2000s by a nonprofit World Toilet Organization that was trying to bring attention to the sanitation crisis that faces the globe. The United Nations then took on this day, and it's now one of their official celebrations to raise awareness.
One of the UN's official days of celebration is World Toilet Day. It feels so fitting.
And it's also an example of the human element that I'm going to focus on tonight, which is gender, and how it is related to these important issues we're talking about.
Okay, I'm going to give her some time here because I really want to hear how World Toilet Day connects to gender, connects to the climate. I'm not saying it can't be done. I've talked about this movie before, Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control by Errol Morris, where he interviews like 3 or 4 different people from completely disparate realms of profession. And it doesn't seem like there's any sense as to why he's talking to these people. And then as the movie goes on, he shows you the connections between everything that seems so separated. So I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait and see if she can draw these red threads together on the corkboard.
I also want to relate it to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which you may have heard of.
Yeah.
There are 17 of these goals that the United Nations is pursuing. And you might think that they're not necessarily connected, but if you look at the image that the United Nations uses for those 17 goals, it's a circle. And they are interconnected. because circle. If I put a whole bunch of disparate things together in a circle, well, now they're connected. Really? Okay. And that's one of the good things that the United Nations has been doing is showing those human interconnections. For example.
Okay, for example.
Clearly, sanitation was the original motivating factor for the development of World Toilet Day.
Okay.
But there are many places in the globe where people do not have access to clean water. Some of those are in the United States.
Clean water. Okay. Are we drinking out of toilets now? And I just because now it's an issue, what exactly happens on World Toilet Day? Like, what does the UN do? What actual actions or activities take place to further the goal of World Toilet Day? I mean, just saying it's World Toilet Day to bring awareness, like, what does that mean? What does that do? Okay, but yes, clean water, I don't think I would immediately associate that with toilets. Sanitation, okay, yeah, maybe kinda sorta, but how about just like Clean Water Day? Why Toilet Day?
And water and sanitation is crucial for health and well-being.
Yes.
And all genders are not equally impacted.
All two of them?
So, for example, giving birth is something that certainly requires clean water and sanitation.
Sure. So does open heart surgery. Oh, yeah?
And access to good health care.
Well, okay, clean water and sanitation, access to good health care, those are two very separate things.
The first sustainable development goal is no poverty.
Okay, well, before I get into the no poverty thing, we have a list. First thing on the board that is clear to me, at least, a list. Circling that one. No poverty. Oh, okay, so first all we have to do is end poverty. Like, okay, well, I mean, that sounds simple enough. I'm sure nobody's been working on that ever at all forever. Tall person, Scribelight, World Toilet Day is more about sanitation. Open defecation is a serious issue in certain parts of the world, specifically poorer parts of the world. Yes, and San Francisco. Ugh, it's true. But no, I won't deny that is true. That is something that is important. I'm not quite sure what that day is meant to do, though. Right? I mean, what happens on that day? Now, thank you, Kiefer Dam. I was late to work yesterday afternoon due to a tornado warning. Must be men's fault. Well, is the meteorologist a man? Did the person who spotted the tornado, were they a man? You know? I mean, the fact that they alerted you to the tornado probably caused you trauma. So it's probably their fault. So they probably should have just, like, not said anything. Made your life easier. Okay. So we have to end poverty. Okay, sounds simple enough.
And of course, poverty is something that impacts all humans.
Yeah.
But again, not equally.
Okay, how? Tell me how.
The United Nations and others have identified gender as essentially a risk factor in poverty. This has sometimes been referred to as the feminization of poverty because women are much more likely to be poor.
Okay, circling feminism, at least, because we're kind of there. And are women more likely to be poor because women make up a larger percentage of the Earth's population than men, on average? I mean, how much more are they likely to be poorer? Do you have any... I mean, I understand you're not a scientist, you're a women's studies professor, but do you have any numbers? Do you have any studies you can name? Just the UN? Okay, could you cite something from the UN? Like, how much? You're talking about proportions, but you never give us any statistics. I mean, and I'll take some statistics over no statistics when you're talking about things like this.
And other members of traditionally marginalized groups as well are at greater risk.
Marginalized and marginalization on the board. And, yeah, you know what? Just by dint of her speech, she's collectivizing own demographics, so circling that one. All right. And by the way, guys, I know that with the chat moving as fast as it is, there's probably been some suggestions for squares to be circled. If I spot you in the chat, I will do so. But if I don't, just hold on to them. We'll get to everybody by the end of the show.
From poverty, and climate change is going to more heavily impact people who don't have the financial resources that others have.
Right. Climate changes women most affected. Okay, I'll tell you what. Just for the sake of argument, because that's all we've got here, and she's not giving us anything more substantive, irate bear, than that, I will concede. I will concede, for the sake of this presentation and for the sake of argument, that women, by some unknown measure, are more likely to be affected by climate change than men. All right? And what?
One of the recent UN reports
Which one?
notes that there are indeed roughly 11 million more women than men in extreme poverty across the globe.
Okay, how does that compare to the overall population of the planet, and what percentage is 11 million in the percentage comparison between women and men on the planet? Because there are more women than men on the planet. There's something like 51% of the population of the planet is women, and 49 is men. So does that 11 million count towards that 1% larger population by any chance? Is that just proportional to the world's population? Because 11 million? But that means that there are men in extreme poverty, right? So men aren't immune from extreme poverty. So...
And climate change is going to hit those in extreme poverty much more heavily than those who are more advantaged.
Right, including men who are in extreme poverty. You said there's 11 million more women in extreme poverty than men. It's not like there are no men in extreme poverty. All right? And again, isn't that just a factor of the population demographics of the planet? Am I taking crazy pills here?
So it's all interconnected.
What? Not
Education.
Yes.
Girls are at risk for not completing their education.
I wonder why that might be. Are there certain cultures that diminish, devalue, and depress women as a matter of faith, policy, custom? Are there large swaths of populations on this planet, for one reason or another, that do this? Yeah, it's bad. It shouldn't be happening if all things were fair, but good luck trying to change certain civilizations. Bit by bit, hopefully, but you know.
When they are in conditions of poverty,
Yes.
without adequate health care,
Yes.
and in particular,
Yeah.
without access to clean water and sanitation.
And this doesn't affect boys in the slightest. Okay. I'm circling leaves out vital context. If you're not going to at least give us the reality of population demographics, male to female worldwide, then... and I think I'm going to circle plays victim, because she's including herself in this by dint of all women, etc. And of course she's going to be affected more. I'm assuming she's not in extreme poverty, but then she's a professor of women's studies, so it's entirely possible.
And so there is a lot of evidence that girls are, once they reach puberty, begin menstruating, if they do not have access to adequate sanitary facilities, may miss school or drop out entirely.
And that couldn't possibly happen to boys as well? Or is it just more likely for girls? What part of the world are we talking about? On the one hand, you talk about global situations, but what are you talking about now? Where does this information come from? Good gravy.
So you can see, I hope, the interconnections of gender with all of these other issues.
No, you just say. It's the same thing as, oh, look, the UN put all of these things in a circle. Now they're connected. Oh, yeah, if I put an apple and a rock next to each other, well, now they're connected. That's not drawing a connection. That might be drawing an association, but I don't...
That certainly World Toilet Day has tried to raise our consciousness about.
Well, they've failed miserably because as far as I can tell, this is the first time I've ever heard of World Toilet Day. So now I know. And knowing is a continuing source of disappointment. But
one of the weaknesses in the UN approach, in my view, has been not really recognizing how important gender is when talking about climate change and climate action.
Okay, is there a reason why they're not doing that? Can you give us their viewpoint before you tell us that they're wrong for not doing so?
So if you look at the SDG 13 page...
The what?
There's almost nothing about gender.
Maybe because it affects human beings.
The only thing I could find was this obscure target, 13B, which didn't really talk about gender more broadly, but rather a particular issue that they were working on.
Okay.
It's important that the United Nations raise the visibility of gender as...
Because that would justify your major and your profession? Okay, if you're looking for places to inject gender where it is not, maybe you're the one with the problem, and not the people who don't have it there. If they're talking about the well-being of human beings worldwide, and the sanitation issue affects people regardless of what their gender is, but you want to make gender an issue, could it be that you're doing that for effectively your own agenda? And well, let me ask you this: how does injecting gender into this issue help things? How does doing this improve something? You know, the fact that you don't see gender in everything you look at, you may think of that as a problem. But tell me, how is putting gender there a solution to anything?
It's an issue in climate change because it impacts the mainstream media's attention to these issues. As recently as 2017, and I see I have a typo on my slide.
I'm not going to fault you for that. I do typos all the time. Increasing media attention, New York Times. The link between climate change and women's rights may seem baffling to some. Okay, maybe I'm blind. Or maybe it's just so subtle. Where's the typo? Baffling to some, Alina.
It should be 2017.
Oh.
The New York Times is saying that the link between climate change and women's rights may seem baffling to some.
You're right. It does seem baffling. Because it is.
Well, it's not baffling to me.
Well, of course it wouldn't be, because your entire career is based around finding gender issues in all things. But okay, you tell us, educate us, by all means, please, please, please. What is the direct connection between women's rights and climate change? I can't wait. Thank you, Spud Gun. Scribelight. Best figures I can find are from 2018. 650 million in total. So by her thinking, it would be 320.5 million female, 319.5 million male. Okay. Like I said, I believe it is something to the effect of the total world's population, women are the majority. By maybe a percentage point or something, but are the majority, right? Okay. So, you mean 650 million in extreme poverty, right? Okay. Right, so... what? Oh, my God. But men aren't nearly as important, guys. There's 11 million more women in extreme poverty than men, so... Anyway, thank you, Spud Gun. I appreciate you at least doing a little bit of research where our speaker should have done so, but oh well. Okay, tell me how women's rights, and women's rights, if she's talking worldwide, yes, there are lots of places in the world where second wave feminism would do them a world, no pun intended, of good. So all right, women's rights, climate change, go.
But apparently was baffling to a lot of people. But the good news is in 2021, the New York Times did recognize the importance of looking at gender as part of the climate change issue.
Why? You need to explain why. The fact that you're happy that someone agrees with you is not evidence that you are correct. Why is there a connection? What does it have to do with anything? Give me evidence that, let's say, in a perfect world, again, no pun intended, but let's say women's rights, equal rights, suddenly appeared across the planet. Every nation, every community, every legal system, all of a sudden, equal rights, okay? What would start happening with climate change on that day? And why?
And they cited the work of one of the authors of one of the books that you may have seen on display out there, who is...
who you can't name, but thankfully someone's added it to the notation in the screen there. All right.
Been a very important voice.
That you can't name, but at least her name's up there.
In emphasizing how climate change is differentially and negatively impacting women.
How? How? Differentially? Differentially on the basis of what? 11 million versus the several million men who are in the same situation financially? By 11 million? Across the entire planet? You know how much of a drop in the bucket that is to the world population?
So, you may have heard in the news about the November 2021 COP26 conference.
No.
Which I think really did elevate the gender issue to a new level.
What is the gender issue? You haven't explained it yet. People in extreme poverty have it worse than people who are not when it comes to healthcare and sanitation. Shock of all shocks. What does that have to do with climate change?
The COP people had actually developed a gender action plan a couple of years ago. But the Gender Day that they had just in November,
yes,
really got a lot of media attention.
Okay.
And got people talking about how important it is to pay attention to gender when we're talking about climate change.
What does that do? What does paying attention to gender when talking about climate change look like? And once you are doing that, what does that do to climate change?
The United Nations has made other efforts, such as the International Women's Day
Oh, yeah.
in 2019, where they featured 5 reasons why climate action needs women.
Needs women? I thought climate action most affected women. What are we... So women aren't participating in climate action? Does climate action not need men? What is even going on now? Yes.
Everyone needs to be involved in the...
Everyone? Oh, how? What are you asking people to do?
solutions to climate change.
Hold on. I cut her off. Let's get the full statement here.
Everyone needs to be involved in the solutions to climate change.
What is the solution?
And
what is the solution?
right now, the UN hasn't done a super job of involving women scientists.
Women scientists? What does that have to do? Okay, so the UN should have a gender test for which scientists they listen to when it comes to climate change now?
At the highest levels of these organizations.
Do you know there aren't enough female CEOs in the Fortune 500 list of companies? Are you kidding me right now? All of this led to there aren't enough women at the highest levels of scientific advisors in the UN. I honestly, you know what? I should have, but I did not see that coming. Okay, all right, so I'm going to circle patriarchy, because if there's not enough women, then there's obviously too many men.
And they admit that, and they're trying to do better.
Do better by being sexually discriminatory? Okay.
It's also true in the disciplines, the scientific disciplines, that we don't have enough of everyone involved in coming up with the solutions.
How much is enough? If someone comes up with a solution and has the wrong genitals, will you value their opinion less than someone who has the right genitals? What are you talking about?
We also have to recognize that women right now are on the ground working in areas that are impacted by climate change. And if they help with mitigation strategies and changes, it will make a crucial difference.
Like what? What areas? Mitigation strategies of what? I thought that they needed more women to take action, or they need... Okay, you know,
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
You're making absolutely no sense right now. Well, not just right now. Like, right now is in the totality of this talk so far. What is your point? First, it's, we need to recognize that climate change affects women disproportionately. Oh, okay, because 11 million more women are in extreme poverty around the world. In a world made up of billions of people, 11 million are in extreme poverty, more so than men, who are also in extreme poverty. Okay, what do you propose be done about this? We have to recognize that women are going to be more affected because of their bodily functions. Okay, what do you recommend be done about this? And we have to recognize that there are too few women at the top of the scientific community helping out the UN. Okay, What do you recommend be done about this? And what does any of this have to do with addressing climate change?
You may be wondering why I have to mention that women are significant members of communities.
Because you think that nobody does know that? Because nobody has a mother? I don't know. Why? To justify your own career, perhaps? To galvanize and make yourself feel better about the academic career you chose, which has absolutely no utility to anything except complaining about things without offering any solutions? I can't possibly imagine. Why don't you tell me?
There are many examples, unfortunately, of attempts at community-based solutions to climate change issues.
Like?
Where women were not part of the process and part of the solution.
Where? Give me an example. When has addressing climate change, whatever that means, been a boys-only club? And do you have an active example of what you are talking about?
And that has to change.
Where? How? Who? What? Oh my God. Every W is in my mind right now. And the H for how. What are you talking about?
And as I've already discussed, women are at higher risk due to poverty and due to other aspects of their typical roles.
Yes, you have, quote unquote, discussed this. You have not explained this. Why are you wasting time going back over trodden ground? As I've already discussed, then why are you bringing it up? I look at these TEDx's. In my mind, what I think of when I start a new TEDx, I think of an essay. I think of an essay paper, right? You start out with the introduction. You give a very brief snippet of what you're going to be talking about. And then there's the body of the paper where you give your argument, your examples, what you're talking about, what points you want to make. And you back up those points, the things that you introduced or at least alluded to in the introduction throughout the course of the body of the paper. And then you have the conclusion where you summarize what you've said and you give, again, galvanizing evidence to the point you made, the hypothesis you put into the introduction. A very structured, very regimented way of providing an argument or discussing a topic, right? That is what my brain is sort of overlaying onto each talk, and just instinctually I'm looking for those portions of that structure to occur throughout the talk. And when those things don't happen in a reasonable time or in a reasonable and recognizable way, my brain kind of takes a vacation. It takes a vacation to La La Land, where I assume our speaker is currently residing.
Such as childbirth.
Yeah, childbirth, yes. Typical roles.
So,
yeah.
The UN is pledging, going forward, to integrating gender in all areas of its initiatives.
What does that mean? Explain yourself!
So,
a needle pulling thread. What are we doing here?
What would be some steps that you could take in the future?
I don't know.
The United Nations has an enormous set of resources.
Oh, I imagine a whole different word was about to come out of her mouth just then. That would have been comedy. Okay, let's fill in the blank yourself, folks.
Take in the future. The United Nations has an enormous set of resources that you can use in the classroom, in your research, in the community. They're free.
Yeah.
They have data and reports.
Oh, yeah.
And ideas
for
action.
Like? Like?
Along with my colleagues,
Are they women? If they're not, should I give them any credence?
Veronica Montesinos and
Oh.
Elizabeth Mazur
Uh-huh.
surveyed hundreds of students
Hundreds?
who attended events like this.
Oh, you surveyed hundreds of students who attended TEDx talks. Okay, well, you know, I sometimes survey hundreds of people over the course of time who attend TEDx talks, at least vicariously. What did the students have to say about whatever you're talking about now?
And we asked them,
Uh-huh.
did they enjoy the event? Was it fun? Did they learn anything?
What does that have to do with anything?
And all the events were not equally fun, as you can imagine.
Oh, I can imagine quite a bit sitting here listening to yours.
But whether fun or not, the students said usually that they learned something.
Argumentative non sequitur. Argumentative non sequitur. Oh, students who came to these events learned something. That has what to do with gender? That has what to do with climate change? That has what to do with anything? Nothing.
So we asked them then to respond yes or no to this statement. This
Okay.
activity has motivated me to do something differently.
Yeah, avoid these events.
And we got about a third of our students said
A third.
yes.
So a minority of those polled said yes. 33% said yes. Is that a win?
And I think that's a pretty decent response.
33%. That's a decent response. Oakley dokley, neighbor.
And almost all of them
Almost all? If you think 33% is a win, what do you categorize as almost?
then gave us examples of what they were going to do differently.
Oh, so almost all of the 33% that said yes gave you examples. Okay, almost all. So like 15%? I mean, that's kind of almost.
That they were going to learn more.
Ah, of what?
That they were going to be more open
About what?
to new ideas.
Like?
To be more tolerant and understanding
Of what?
of different people.
What?
And to take actions, to volunteer,
To what?
and to behave in a more responsible way.
About what?
And so I would leave you with the hope that you will do the same.
What?
That as you learn about this issue,
What issue?
that yes, it's serious.
What is...
But there also are actions that we can all take.
Like?
And I hope you will be motivated, as the other students were, to do something differently to make a difference.
What,
Thank you.
what the... Are you kidding me? Oh, you know, it is a rare day. Or maybe it's not that rare a day. I don't know. Do we often see a TEDx that literally, and I know everyone should use that word sparingly, but in this case, I don't think I'm too far off the mark. Do we see a TEDx that literally says nothing, explains nothing, and provides absolutely nothing to walk away with? I don't know. This might be a red letter day. Not a red toilet day, but a red letter day for TEDx, which is saying something since their logo is, using red letters. Okay. Well, that's a thing that happened. I don't even know what to say, except let's move on to the bingo card. I think we have some squares to circle, don't you? All right. Oh, that's too big. Just a bit too big. There we go. How's about that? That's fine. Okay, let us begin with where I am right now. Okay, so this is the bingo card as I have it. So I'm going to go through it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. I'll get to them momentarily. Systemic institutional. The UN, global initiatives, etc. Yes. I'm going to say systemic institutional. Especially when we're talking about there not being enough female scientists at the UN, there's obviously some systemic sexism taking place there because they need to do better, and they recognize that. Sales pitch for product or service. I wish she had gotten as specific and detailed enough to be pitching a specific product or service. Except... what was it, a sales pitch? She said you can go to the UN for all these resources, they're free. You know what, that is a sales pitch. That's a sales pitch. It might not be for profit, but it's a sales pitch. Oh, the UN, go to the UN for this stuff. Yeah, okay. Let's update that. Okay, childhood or family anecdote. Surprisingly enough, she never brought up herself directly, and definitely gives no anecdotes about her family or background. So there you go. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Did she say diverse in there somewhere? She was talking about, yeah, you know what, with what amounts to a DEI initiative that she was proposing for the UN and their scientific community and advisory councils or whatever else. Yeah, you know what? It's my show, and I say that sounded like a DEI initiative, if not said explicitly. So, that being the case.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
We have our first bingo. Moving on, microaggressions, unconscious bias. Let's see, unconscious bias. Yeah, she said something like, people find the connection between women's rights and climate change baffling. Is that an unconscious bias? Is that a microaggression? I think it constitutes such, or is at least implied as such. And certainly with the female scientists and so on and so forth. Privilege. Well, no, I'm gonna leave that. I'm not quite sure. Maybe. I could see an argument, but I'm gonna leave that for you. Contradicts own point or argument. What point or argument? She didn't have a point or argument. So can you contradict your own point or argument by not having one? That's a philosophical question. Actually, you know what? The thing that keeps sticking in my mind is there are 11 million more women in extreme poverty than men. As though that means that there's an inherent imbalance that is like, what, based on sexism or something? And she didn't even bother to imagine that, is that just the differential in world population demographics? Could it be? You know what? I'm circling it. I'm circling it because she didn't even bother. And this is something that we talked about when we looked over the actual rules for content guidelines for TEDx Talks. She didn't even bother to bring up a counterpoint or a weakness in her argument or anything else, and consequently she leaves just a giant door open to whatever point she was trying to make completely falling apart. So, there's probably a better argument, but that's the one I'm going with. Weightless example. Did she give any examples of anything? I mean, I don't want to double dip too much on the 11 million thing, because that, again, just doesn't mean anything. I'm going to leave that there. Maybe you guys can come up with something that's more solid. Wage gap. Well, if not a wage gap, then definitely economic disparity between men and women. Right? There's 11 million more women. I know, I keep coming back to that, but she didn't give us much to work with. But still, it was there. Free space, circle in that one, because why not? Should have done that earlier. Okay, next, white supremacy. Surprisingly enough, she never brought up race. Surprisingly enough, so white supremacy, no. Word salad, are you kidding me? Yeah. Oh yeah. Several times. Self-vilification or wretchedness. At no point. At no point did she make either herself, or certainly her gender, a part of the problem. Well, women need to be more involved. I don't know if that's enough to call it self-vilification. Like, we need to do more. I don't know. Nah. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. I didn't hear anything new in there. Mind reading assumes motives. Yes, the UN is inherently sexist because it doesn't include gender in its analysis of climate science. And that needs to change. That's not right. That's not correct. I need somebody to justify and affirm my academic choices. Let's see. Benevolent condescension. I mean, I felt like my intelligence was being insulted every time that she made a statement. So, yeah. I mean, this is... The badness of this talk is filling out more squares than, I think, one that actually had any content to it. And lastly, anecdote that probably never happened. Did she give any anecdotes? I mean, she gave a whole bunch of broad, undefined citing of some sources, and then showing some others. I don't think she gave us any anecdotes. What did the gender neutral bathroom have to do with anything? Like, I mean, she specifically brought up gender neutral and wheelchair accessible. You know what? I'm circling weightless example for that one. Yeah, that's weightless example. It could also count for argumentative non sequitur, but if she was trying to use that to prove something, she failed miserably. And as a consequence of that...
Ooh, that's a bingo!
Right?
Yeah!
Second bingo. All right, guys, there is the card as it stands. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, please put them in the chat now. Please be sure to tag me in your comment so I can possibly see it more easily than others. And I'll scroll up a bit. Yvonne Solomon, she never explicitly said men have more privilege, but I think it was implied with the more women in poverty stat. Yeah, I'm inclined... Well, also the scientist stuff. Yeah, you know what? You're right. You're right. I mean, it might be inherent to it. I don't want to be too easy on the subject because it might be, a too easy climb. But yeah, I mean, it's implied throughout that men don't have this problem. Men have this problem less. More men are making the decisions and so on and so forth. So, yeah. Well, Yvonne Solomon, I don't know if you realize it, but you just got us 2 more bingos.
I had a dog, and his name was...
What?
I had a dog, and his name was...
Bingo!
Of course!
Oh, won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
All right, there we go. Another couple bingos. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Let's continue. And if I missed your argument, please just repost it. Spudgun, Scribelite. IT's estimated that currently males are 51.9% of the global... Oh, really? But even so, 11 million is a statistical nominal difference. It's 3.442% more women as a percentage of extreme poverty. Okay. You see, I was always under the impression that women were just slightly more, but now it's men who are slightly more? Oh, well, we are in the majority now. Uh-oh. Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Invictus Soul. There was a Scribelite that played a game of TEDx Bingo was its name-o. B-I-N-G-O, and TEDx Bingo was its name-o. Indeed. Red Rover. Send, I don't know, Keeperdam, right over. More advantage equals privilege. Yeah, this is true. This is true. All right. Any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? I was actually kind of surprised, given how almost nothing there was in this deal. 4 bingos so far. Not too shabby. Do 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 do. Somnambulation, circle the card. Yes, you are correct. You are correct. Doing my Ed McMahon, such as it is. All right, I have circled the card. I have saved the circled card. I have updated the circled card. Lexi Mads, I'm really digging this background music. It's keeping me calm. Yeah, I am really glad that I can put in some background music now. When I go back and I listen to TEDx's from, well, just like last year, a few months ago, where I didn't have the background music, it just suddenly sounds so barren. You know, I can still listen to them, but it's just like I miss having something to fill in those empty spaces and keep something nice and soothing going on throughout all this madness. That's what I like. Yeah. Let's see. Any other arguments for squares to be circled, guys? Because I think I'm... Let's see. Childhood or family anecdote? Again, nope. White supremacy? Nope. Self-vilification? Anecdote? Attempt coin? I think we've hit the wall, as it were. I think we've hit the wall. We got a lot further into the card than I thought we would. But, yeah, 4 bingos and a WTF. That's a pretty good rate, I think, for something that said absolutely nothing about anything. Boy, oh boy. How do I pick them? What were my other options this week? I had a whole bunch. Let's see. Just a little behind the scenes. What other TEDx's did I not do this week? How women are reclaiming food as medicine. You were not born to fit into a box. Insects, the future of food. The importance of diverse picture books. Am I the black best friend? Race tropes in film and TV. What else? What's the other one? Trash. I'm not going to do this one because it's a TEDx youth, and I don't dunk on teenagers and students. But trash incineration is environmental racism. I love that title. Trash incineration is environmental racism. I'm assuming it has something to do with the usual location of such facilities, as geographically speaking, to probably poorer communities, and then, of course, equating poverty with race in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. Spud Gun. I thought you said incest, the future of food. That would have been a different TEDx. Yes. Yes, that would have been Spud Gun. That would have been. Yvonne Solomon. Can we circle the card with the WTF circle until it's all green? We could, but why? Anyway, thank you, Yvonne. Maybe if it was just like a... I mean, I've done more than one WTF in a show before and circled it several times, so it can happen. Just didn't happen this time. Probably should have. Probably should have WTF'd it a couple of times there, but... Anyway, guys, I think that's where we're going to leave off. 4 bingos, a WTF, and a TEDx talk that told us absolutely nothing. It almost felt like she was intentionally constructing her talk to be as uninformative as possible. But she's a professor? Am I doing my Sean Connery now? Professor? She's a professor of women's studies. Be on the lookout at Penn State if you send your child there as to what their tuition is paying for. Anyway, everybody, I'm going to call it there. Thank you for joining me for this, whatever the heck it was. I hope you enjoyed the ride, such as it was. If you'd like to hear more from me, well, there's a She-Hulk review of the finale that has as of right now, the part where my voice cut out because StreamYard crashed on me slightly and kicked me out of the show, that part's been cut out of the stream, so it's contiguous from me talking to me talking again. And so that's cut out. You don't have to worry about that wasted time. That is, if you want to find out what happened at the end of She-Hulk, because it's pretty disappointing and infuriating, probably to those people that actually like the show. But beyond that, you'll find me here Sunday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for the Sunday stream, where I'll talk about a thing. Not quite sure yet. I keep looking at Hive Diversity because they changed their name and they dropped the diversity. But they haven't said anything about it yet, so I don't even have a press release. But that's all for the future. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do, and it looks like our sex bot didn't show up, so maybe I finally effectively got him canceled. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity, whether it was to me or to the GoFundMe's pinned to the top of the chat box, to our friend Shady Grin, Angry Illinoisian, and his kitten. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And with that, everyone, I hope you have a good rest of your Thursday. I hope you have a good rest of your week and your weekend ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.